You are listening to the Bitter Medicine Podcast on KWAC Radio. Welcome to the Bitter Medicine Podcast, where it's all about Black empowerment. Our show focuses on Black news and entertainment, arts, science, economics, history, people, and strategies that uplift, empower, and motivate Africans within the diaspora. And now, your host, whose favorite color is black, Goku.
That's right. Your host today is Koku, as always, and my favorite color is black. Before I get into today's show, which is going to be a good one, I want to deal with the free business shout-out. The free business shout-out, once again, goes to Stephanie Renee's Salon, located at 1614 West Main Street, Kalamazoo, Michigan, zip code 49006. If you want to reach them, you can reach Stephanie Renee's Salon at 269-459-6535. That's 269-459-6535. Stephanie Renee Salon offers natural hair care products, and you can find them conveniently located inside Cali Beauty. That's Stephanie Renee Salon. Remember to support black business, to always buy black. And if you or someone you know owns a black business, have them send me their information. I'll give them a free business shout out on the podcast. The podcast comes out weekly, so I'll give them a weekly shout out for free. Have them email me at bitter, bitter, .medicine, medicine, .podcast, podcast, @gmail.com. That's bitter.medicine.podcast @gmail.com. So today's show, I have been wanting to do this show for some time now. I've been wanting to tackle this topic because I feel like African people are not connected in any way to any traditional self-defense. At least that's how it's portrayed. We're not connected to any traditional self-defense. All we're good for is playing sports, participating in basketball, football, baseball, this kind of thing that has no benefit in defending ourselves and our community. But that's really not the truth. The truth is Africans studied martial arts. In fact, it was called the Montu arts. And later, the Romans took it and named it after their god of war, Mars. I made it martial arts, and it became martial arts in Asia and stuff like that. So I have a brother on today who wrote a book called The Tao of 52. He's a 52 blocks practitioner. His name is Diallo Frazier. Mr. Frazier, are you on with us today?
I'm on with you. How you doing today?
I'm doing great, man. Glad to finally have you on. We've been speaking back and forth about this appearance for some time on Instagram, and it's a pleasure to have you on this morning.
Thank you so much. Appreciate being on. It's always a pleasure to just have a great cipher with my people. So
Great.
This is an important subject.
Great. So let me just give the listeners your brief bio. Diallo Frazier has found a system that combines urban street smarts with practical applications to protect yourself. His method instills the confidence to handle a situation with relative ease once the principles are applied. Strikes to the most uncommon targets that instantly immobilize your assailant and makes him wish he'd thought twice before attacking you. The rhythmic moves appeal to the cultural movements of ancient African dances, sort of like a street version of capoeira, except more direct and to the point. This is from Mr. Diallo's book called, is the Tao of 52?
The Tao of 52, Tao of 52.
Okay.
Either one.
And you can find that book on Amazon, the Tao or the Tao of 52.
Yeah, you can find it on Amazon.
Great.
Sure.
And you have a companion book, a book of quotations, right?
Yeah, it's a book of philosophical quotes.
Yeah.
And that's the 52 thoughts.
52 thoughts, right. So please, guys, if you're listening, check this out because, like I said before I introduce Mr. Diallo, oftentimes we're not associated with a martial arts. We're not associated with our own martial arts. We have practitioners and Asian martial arts and stuff like that, but we had our own martial arts, and we're going to break down a martial arts style that's really been perfected in America, correct?
Yes. I mean, it's the roots are in, of course, our Kimo Balani. Our roots are Kimo are Nubia. But from the Middle Passage, we had systems that came over to America from the Middle Passage because as Africans, what we did were when we had rites of passage, we all, at that point, when we were not disturbed by European rule, we had a rites of passage, and the young men would learn the arts of combat, which was a part of our growing up as young men, 15, 16, in our teenage years. I think I also sometimes equate that to joining gangs. It's a subconscious that we don't really know we inherited. It's our warrior culture that's in there, but we just haven't been shown how to direct it. So some of those systems that came over were Bore, which was a Mandinka warrior art, which used knees and headbutts and grabs and kicks and bone-breaking type holds, like what the jiu-jitsu people do, types, to give you a description, because a lot of times people want to have a description.
Yeah. Then
you had Dambe that came over, which was a Nigerian boxing style. And a lot of people call it the cousin of comedic boxing. So, you use your hands, but you also used your feet and kicks and knees within that, which people don't realize that a lot of the boxing, the earlier boxing, even in America, wasn't just using your hands. It was using the hands. You could pull hair, you can punch, kick, knee, but then later on, as they organized it, it changed. What a lot of people have not really known about. Then you have Rites, which is a head-butting system. And that's the brothers from Urethra. It was a system that you really didn't use. Your whole attack is based off of head fighting. You would grab and move and lock people up so you can just strike them with your head. It was all head blows, but it also used stand-up grappling to control your enemy and put them where you need to be to head fight them. And of course, you also have what people call Western boxing, which is actually comedic boxing, because that's where Western boxing comes from. It comes from Kemet. And though that is the other element of 52 blocks. So you have those elements, all those African elements put together in American slavery. They called them the Virginia Scufflers back then, because they had a fighting system where the Virginia Scufflers would fight for better slave quarters. Some would fight to free their families from slavery. Some would fight just because Massa wanted him to fight, and others. It was always really a code to fight. The fight was like either better slave quarters, get my family free, or free myself. Fight enough where I can free myself, or I could go overseas and fight over there and then escape slavery. So that's what a lot of the Virginia Scufflers did. From there, after the Civil War, a lot of the Virginia Scufflers were also considered unruly ex-slaves. And you had the prison industrial complex that kicked in after the Civil War.
Right.
So they needed to, you got to think about the damage that was done to this country from the Civil War. And yet they didn't want to lose any money. They still wanted money. remember, the Civil War was fought over money. Lincoln said, if I could not free the slaves and create this union, I would.
Right.
You know, they never tell you that. Right. They never talk about, you know, how if he didn't do it to free any slaves, it was about economics.
Right.
The South had money. The North wanted that money. They fought for that money. And one of the ways in warfare, you take away resources. And one of the biggest resources was slavery. So they took away their resources.
Right.
And by doing that, it crippled the South. And they were able to win the war.
Right.
So while doing that, they also needed to rebuild. And they needed some more free labor to rebuild. So their prison industrial complex kicked in. A lot of the Virginia scufflers were, quote unquote, unruly. So they put them in the jail system for free labor. Again, slavery just reinvented.
Mm-hmm.
And the system of Virginia scuffling in jail became jailhouse rock. And that used close quarters, improvised weapons, a lot of knees, elbows, head fighting, chokes became more prevalent because you had to fight in hallways and cells and closets. So the system tightened up in the jail system. Then when people came out of the jail system, out of the South, they moved to the Midwest, West, and in the East. And in the East is where the name 52 Blocks comes from. In New York, Rikers Island, it was named after the card game 52 Pickup,
mm-hmm.
which means let the cards lie where they may or anything goes.
Mm-hmm.
And then, so that system also migrated out of New York. There's Alto 52 in Atlanta. There was Alto 52. In Chicago, it's just called the 52. In parts of Philadelphia, they called it the Science. In LA, they still called it Jailhouse Rock. So it still migrated, and then once it migrated on the streets, it changed not from just being close quarter, but also angling, and the more of the dancing movement came in. And not really, I'm not going to say dancing. When I say dancing, you got to think Muhammad Ali.
Yeah.
That's what I mean when I say dancing movement, the rhythm.
Mm-hmm.
You know, a lot of times when whether it's MMA or whether it's boxing, you see a lot of the people that aren't black, when they see us move, oh, stand still. Why am I standing still so you can hit me? The whole point of combat is to be able to strike as much without being hit as much as you strike.
Right.
And that movement, that rhythm is what enables us not to be hit, but still hit you. And that's what 52 is really based off of. It's based off of those arts that I told you, the evolution that it went through from slavery to the streets. And I've just been promoting it and letting people know that we have our own system. And the funny thing is because I've known 52 for a while, but I didn't show it because the old school method was you don't show people 52.
Mm-hmm.
You select few with no 52, but we didn't want everybody knowing our business and knowing our skill set and knowing what we can and cannot do.
Yes, yes.
And I was one of the first people in the modern era, as far as the 21st century, I was the first person in the 21st century to come out and reveal 52, not for selfish reasons, but because of Black pride reasons. I was working at I was working at a place called the House of Champions after I came out with my first book called Revelations of a Warrior, and I was doing seminars at the House of Champions on 52 Blocks, and I just saw the way young Black males, and I'm not saying young as in teenagers, I'm saying 20-year-old,
mm-hmm.
looked when they learned about 52, kind of inspired me to say, I need every young Black male needs to know this, because this can be their rites of passage. No longer should they rites of passage, just, they have a warrior spirit and didn't know what to do with it, and didn't know they might not have resonated with this system or that system. But every time I've done 52, every time I've shown 52 to a young black male, he's resonated with it 100%. And he's always engulfed in it. Like, I need this. It's medicine. So I felt like I needed to inject the medicine into the community. Right. And that's when I went on a mission to bring 52 to the world.
Okay. So, you mentioned something that I talk a lot about on this show. I talk about the fact that in our DNA, we have instructions, and a lot of us don't recognize the instructions that we have in our DNA from thousands of years ago. It's not something new. And I like how you broke it down, that a lot of the youth out here who are getting involved in gangs and kind of aimless, they don't understand the instructions that they have in their DNA that's telling them that this is the age for you to really accept, your rite of passage, become your warrior self. Yeah.
Yes.
I think that's important.
I completely agree.
Yeah. Go ahead and talk about that a little bit more.
Okay. I completely agree. I mean, and I don't agree from a thought process. I agree from a life experience agreement. That's the thing how I am is that, and I've been this way since I was young. People tell you this is how something works, and it can't work outside this level. So I want to see it for myself. Is this how this works? Is this what this means? Is it? So I would experiment. So, like I said, when I was seeing these young 20-year-olds gravitating when I was doing seminars at the House of Champions, I started going outside of that and working with troubled youth. And I worked with a program called Kids, Keep Youth Doing Something. And they only worked with, so quote unquote, bad kids, which, and all those bad kids happen to be either Black or Latino. Most of them were Black. And when I started working with kids, and not literal kids, but the nonprofit organization Kids. Yeah. I started training young Black males, and when I first would just tell them this is yours, the way their eyes would look, I don't know if I feel like it's unexplainable, because it felt like our spirits at that point connected, and you had to feel it.
Beautiful.
It wasn't even a sight; it was a feel. It was like your spirits. It was like they opened up and said, "This is what I've been needing my whole life." Like, I had this energy in me of a warrior, and didn't know that I was a warrior. Right. I thought I was a gangbanger. Right. I thought I was a bad kid. I thought I was. They told me that I was ADD, because this is what they told me. They told me I was a gangbanger. They told me I was a bad kid. They told me I was dysfunctional because I was too hyper. But you were a warrior, and when I presented them with their warrior culture and their warrior spirit and their warrior Montu art, their whole demeanor changed. They started talking differently. They started learning the system that they were in. And when I say learning the system they're in, because I would go over combat and strategy, and I just didn't teach them the physical part of 52. I also taught them the strategic part of 52. And when you're in enemy lines, you have to learn the strategy to move behind enemy lines, so you can attack at the right time, you can retreat at the right time, and you can stand firm at the right time. So that's how I explained it to them. And then I started explaining that, yes, you're in the system, and sometimes you're not going to resonate with what they're teaching you. But you have to see what their history is, combine it with your own history, and then you know how to work their system. Then you know how to work them. Then you know how to conquer them, if you know how they operate. And that would resonate with them. Now they said, okay, I'm not just going to school, I'm fighting the system.
Right.
And to fight the system, let me learn their ways so I can learn how to play their game so I can add on to their game. It's like there wasn't no dunk before black people started playing basketball.
That's heavy.
When black people started, it's their game. They created the game. We learned the game and said, okay, you didn't say I could do this, so I'm gonna do this now. I'm gonna score like this. And then what did they do? They outlawed the dunk.
They did, yeah.
Because black people created something within their system that they didn't know how to control. But that's the whole thing. We have to start dunking the ball. And that's what I told these young men, and they started training. And Montu art started getting flourishing mentally, physically, and spiritually. And that's why I say I know for a fact that it resonates in our DNA and that we don't know how to use it. And then that's why we end up gang banging and fighting against ourselves, because we don't know who the enemy is and who the target is.
Man, I love it. I love it. I once was talking to an elder, an old Army vet, black man, and he told me, he said, the youth, if they would go into the Army, it would be better for them to go into the Army and, burn off some of that energy and all this and that and the other. And I looked at them and I said, but here is a country that doesn't care about them, never really has.
Yeah.
Why should they go and risk their lives fighting in an army? And I'm listening to you talk here, and it makes perfect sense now that, the thing for them to do is to embrace their traditional African martial art.
Yes. And learn how to create your defense system for your community.
Yeah.
And that's the army you need to join.
We
did have it. We did have it, and we had the Panthers, and they did great things. And think about that: the Panthers fought on all fronts. They didn't just carry guns around. They fed the youth with free breakfast programs. They healed the sick with acupuncture programs and medicine programs. They created musical. A lot of people don't know that they had their own music bands that went around and did tours.
Didn't know that.
They made. Yeah, see, a lot of people don't know that, and they created their own music culture. So they embraced us in a whole. And then what did the government do? They banned the dunk. They banned the dunk again with them. Because once we learn our Montu arts, because that's the part of the Montu arts, is self-sufficiency. One of the biggest things, why do you learn? Because being able to walk and not worry about another human being and being able to break them down physically with your Montu art, that's self-sufficiency. That's the greatest self-sufficiency. Once you learn how to stand up on your own 2 feet and not fear, well, I'm not going to say not fear, because I think fear is not worry. Because fear is the natural body's alarm system.
Right. That's
what people get mixed up too. Is that fear is not a bad thing. You just learn how to embrace it, because it's just like an alarm system. When your car is open and there's no alarm system, it's going to get stolen. Because you weren't aware.
Yeah.
But if you have an alarm system on, then the warning that scares off the thief. So your alarm system says there's danger. So that's what fear is. Fear is just telling you that there's danger.
Yeah.
In a sense.
Yeah.
So now there's danger. Now you know you have to hone your skills that you've been learning all this time, and then present them to whatever danger that's out there.
Yeah. Yeah. You're right. Fear is not a bad thing, like you said, is an alarm. Worry is the bad thing.
Yes, because worry will paralyze you.
Yeah.
Because worry, think of people worry about when you was a child and you did something wrong, and then you had to walk home knowing that you're gonna get a whooping. You worried about it all the time.
Yeah.
And you thought that whooping was gonna be the end of life.
Yeah.
And then sometimes it wasn't even a whooping. You had created a scenario in your head because you was worrying about it. You like, man, I'm going to She gonna beat me. My mama gonna beat me. My grandma gonna beat me. I'm gonna do it. And then they come in the house and they just shake your head and just say, you know what? I'm not talking to you no more. Mm-hmm. I'm not gonna talk to you for a week. And you're like, wait a minute. I thought I was about to just die because you worried yourself to death. Some people have heart attacks from worry.
Yeah. Some people are heavily medicated from anxiety, which is basically worry, you know?
Worry. Yeah. That's what it is, because they haven't learned how to accept their fear of their natural alarm system and then face it. And that's what the Montu arts does for you. The Montu arts teaches you how to accept fear for what it is, the natural alarm system, and then use your skills that you learned and face the fear.
Love it, man. Love
it.
Go ahead. Finish.
I'm saying once you face the fear, then you learn that to be a conqueror. And conquerors are never enslaved again. Conquerors are never put in jail. Conquerors are not dependent on anybody else. Conquerors build their communities up. Conquerors build businesses. Conquerors write books, have their own podcasts. Conquerors create their own music, they conquer whatever area that they're in, and they're not controlled in this system of white supremacy.
Damn, that's powerful right there. Let me take a quick station break. On the other side of this break, the station ID, I want to talk the philosophy. I want to talk the mental aspect of 52. Is that okay?
Perfect.
Okay, just hold on one second. Let's do this quick station ID.
You are listening to the Bitter Medicine Podcast on KWAC Radio.
When will African people have basic rights? When will we be protected? When will our cost of living be eliminated? When will our cultures be preserved? We need a new leadership. One that has studied the problems and learned the solutions. The Pro-Black Compendium is the book to start off that leadership. Quotations, essays, poems, stories, codes of conduct, curricula, principles, relationship advice, marketing tips, group economics, games, book clubs, movie nights, chronologies, civilizations, wars, warriors, authors, songs, conflict resolution. The list goes on. There is no book more necessary for starting our people on the path to African redemption.
Peace, family. This is Oni, inviting you to listen to the Pro-Black Perspective, where black problems are addressed with black solutions.
Greetings, family. This is Koku, host of the Bitter Medicine Podcast. In case you didn't know, we have an online book club called the Bitter Medicine Book Club. Every month, we will select a book to inspire the Bitter Medicine Podcast listening audience to read along together. At the end of the month, we will have a call-in show and book discussion. This is a great, dynamic way for readers to not only enjoy a book, but also have others to bounce ideas off of. They say if you want to keep anything away from black people, put it in a book. Don't allow this to be true. Head over to bittermedicineblogs.com and subscribe to our newsletter for important updates. Do that today. Join our reading collective today and empower yourselves, your family, and your community. Peace and blessings.
You are listening to the Bitter Medicine Podcast on KWAC Radio.
Welcome back to the Bitter Medicine Podcast. Today's show is already probably one of my better shows. I mean, we're talking to Mr. Diallo Frazier about the Tao of 52, his book, and the 52 blocks martial arts system that's a system for you as black people. It comes from the Montu arts, It comes from the Montu arts through the passage of slavery, and Mr. Frazier is really breaking down some stuff here today. The last thing Mr. Frazier was talking about before the station ID was about how if you learn to conquer fears, you'll never be conquered again. And that leads me to want to talk about the philosophy, right? The mentality of the 52 man, right? So, Mr. Frazier, talk about what's really some basic philosophies of 52 blocks.
The base of our philosophy is offensive defense. Meaning that we are counter fighters in everything, not just physically but mentally. We don't start no shit. Sorry about that. We don't start none.
You could curse,
but we do end. Okay, we don't start no shit, but we finish shit.
Good.
And that's the difference. We look at it in situations that I walk into a situation, I'm always on the offensive defense, not being on the defense where I'm waiting because to me, when you're just on the defense, that means that somebody is going to hit you, and then you have to react after the hit. Offensive defense means somebody's going to swing at you, but you're going to destroy that attack and then implement a vicious destruction of an enemy. We're not going to work. We're not trying to let you hit us, and that's mentally, physically, and spiritually too. Mentally, I'm not going to let you dictate my mindset. So you might have hit me with whatever your system tells me that I'm not intelligent, or it tells me that I didn't, you can't pass my SAT. Well, my offensive defensive mindset says, well, let me look at your system, and can you live in my intelligence? Can you deal with me on my level? And I can learn your level. I've learned your level. I can deal with you on your level, but you can't deal with me on mine. You can't outsmart me because I know you, but you don't know me. You don't know my moves, how I get down, unless we tell them, which we've been doing lately. But everything is offensive defense. So we want to counter strike any attack. So our mindset is always on the counter strike. If you tell me about Christopher Columbus, I tell you to go get the book that came before Columbus.
Right.
If you throw a straight right to me, I give you a skull and crossbone, which is a 52 move that will break your knuckles because I'm making sure that your knuckles hit my elbows. And then I'm going to shoot my left cross after I break your knuckles into your face. So we're countering anything you give to us.
I like that. You have a quote in the Diallo 52 that's an original quote of yours, and I liked it. I got exactly where you were coming from. You said you have to be like a quarterback playing the safety position.
The safety position, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you have to be like a quarterback playing the safety position. And when I say that,
and really, that's how a lot of people become great in those sports anyway, right? When they could think like the other side, right, and use that in their play,
But the other side has never been on their side.
Right.
A perfect example of that is what's his name? Sherman from the Seahawks.
Yeah, is it Richard Sherman?
Richard Sherman from the Seahawks. He was a receiver.
Yes.
And then he went on the other side of the ball. He knows how a receiver thinks. So he's going to become the best cover corner because I know exactly how you think. But you have never been over here as a cornerback. So you don't know defense. You've read about it, but you've never experienced being a defensive back.
Right.
And since you've never experienced being a defensive back, you don't know how to outmaneuver me. But I can know everything you do because I've ran your patterns. I've done everything that you've done.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen everything that you've seen because I've been in your shoes, but you've never been in mine.
Mm-hmm.
So now I can conquer you. But that's what I mean. You have to be a quarterback playing a safety position. A quarterback, if you play quarterback, which a lot of times they make our black quarterbacks end up playing different positions. If you're a quarterback all your life, and then now you have to play safety, you can read the quarterback's mind dang there because you played that position.
Yeah.
Now the field, you control the field from the other side when nobody on that side can do the same to you because they haven't experienced your perspective.
Yeah, you kind of become the spook that sat by the door type.
That's a perfect example.
Yeah.
Perfect example.
Yeah.
And another part of our philosophy is that we are peaceful spirits that dwell in the body of violence.
Say that again.
So we are peaceful spirits that dwell in the body of violence.
Talk about it.
So and inside, I don't want war, but I'm not afraid of war, and I don't shy away from it because it's what I know.
Mm-hmm.
I know it, and because I know it, and I implement it, and I've been in it, and I know how it feels. I don't want to have to go there, but I'm not opposed to going there. So if you want to be peaceful, you have to be violent because there has to be violence to protect that peace. That's just how the world works. We can pretend that it works in a different way, but it does not.
Mm-hmm.
You have to be a peaceful man, but you have to have violent skills in this world. Because to protect your peace, you better know that there's some violence coming behind it if you try to disturb it. And they need to know how.
I think that, what you said there is so deep, man. I think about our people, black people, and I realize that a lot of us just want to be at peace and no violence. And we're never going to get up from under this oppression.
No.
If we, and I think religion and stuff has a lot to do with that, but we just want to be at peace, not realizing that you actually do have to have some violence to protect that peace.
But I think it's the interpretation of religion. Like I'm an Israelite.
Okay.
So let me break this down.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
Let me break this down. These okay, what did they say? Turn the other cheek. About when it comes to Yahshua. Mm-hmm. They call him Jesus or whatever. His name is Yahshua. Now, but he said, any man with a brain will sell his garment and buy a sword.
Yeah, he did. Mm-hmm.
And a sword back then would be a gun today.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
He ain't telling you to buy no sword so you can just hang it up and make it look pretty.
Right.
He's basically saying if you want peace, you better be violent.
Mm-hmm.
You better have some type of violence to back up that peace. He also say, I didn't come here to bring peace. I came to bring a sword.
Yep.
So it's how again, once you learn your Montu arts, it brings you to your spiritual center, whichever spiritual, whether it's the natural spiritual of the motherland, the other natural spirituals from the Israelite perspective, because it still was formed in Ethiopia, Kemet, and Nubia. That's where Israelites come from. They don't come from Europe.
Right.
But thing is, you still have to be able. Your Montu arts teaches you discipline. Discipline negates laziness. And once you negate laziness, nobody can't teach you falsely. Nobody can't make you say to have peace you have to be peaceful.
Mm-hmm.
That's the most false statement in the world. And the people who say it are the most violent people that you can find. The people that's telling you to be peaceful are the most violent people that you know.
That's the thing that I don't understand why our people don't wake up to that. The people who are telling you, who are giving you the religion that's dulling down the message, right?
Yes.
Are the most violent people in the world, in the history of the world.
The most violent. And the reason they want you to be peaceful because they know how you act when you do. They know the consequences of you waking up to your greatness.
Mm-hmm.
Of us waking up to when we wake up to our greatness, we're not gonna deal with this shit. And that's the whole thing, is that people don't look at. They're trying to suppress your greatness.
Mm-hmm.
They're trying to make you lose your mind because spiritually, like you was talking about earlier, that DNA is passed down.
Yeah, man.
And when you're sitting there suppressing that DNA, it actually will drive you crazy because you know that this ain't right.
Mm-hmm.
I should not be letting these people beat my women. I should not let, if a black man is on the street and a black woman is on the street, she should feel safe no matter who that black man is.
100%, yeah.
There should be, I don't give a fuck, I don't care if it's a cop or a Klansman or a college professor or a store clerk at Walmart or something. You can, if a black woman is walking around and there's a black man around, then she is safe. And that should always be that way. They're the most unprotected women in the world, but yet the most beautiful, centered, spiritual, loving, mothering human being on this earth is the black woman.
Yeah,
and she would.
I'm sorry. Go ahead. No, continue.
I was gonna say, and the Montu arts teaches you that you are the soldier of the mother of the universe. So therefore, you have to be a bad motherfucker to protect the greatest queen on this planet.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And people don't get that.
Yeah, people don't get it because I've seen, just in the past few weeks, I've seen videos with black women being yoked up in these restaurants, these Asian restaurants and stuff, and black dudes are filming the shit. I'm like, but...
Yeah, I've seen 2 videos like that, and I couldn't believe it. I could not. I couldn't. All I kept saying is that that's insanity. Literally.
Yeah.
You have become insane.
Yeah.
Because you don't know that your natural position is to protect that woman.
Yeah.
That's what you're here for. That's what you do. When you learn your Montu arts, when you are focused mentally, spiritually, and physically, you are a protector. And there's no protector like the black man, period.
Right.
None.
Right.
I don't care what nobody say. There's no protector like the black man. When he's right, and he's focused, and he's trained, think about that in Vietnam. They used to send troops, all black troops out, and they would all come back. They would send all white troops out, and 20% would come back.
Yeah.
And then they said, wait a minute, we're going to have to start mixing this up because these brothers are coming back.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't because they wasn't shooting at brothers. This was because brothers were shooting back on a whole different level, saying, yo, you're not killing me.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm here. Now I'm a fight. I've been recruited here, but I'm getting back home to my woman. I'm getting back home to my mom. I'm getting back home to my life. So now it's you and me. It ain't even about this country no more.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's about the survival of my people, because a lot of those dudes didn't volunteer to be there. They were drafted.
Yeah, absolutely.
So when the black man is focused, trained, and spiritually ready, there's no better protector, there's no better warrior, period.
So what do you think, just from your own outlook, from your own observations, what do you think is really wrong with the black man now?
I think, number one, I believe that the black man has lost the ritual of rites of passage.
Mm.
And I think if we give these youth, like my son and my daughter went through a rites of passage
Mm-hmm.
when they turned 16. Each week was a different week. It was a week of exercise, a week of paying the bills and learning about the things that you have to do to have a household, to control your household.
Mm-hmm.
Then there was a week of going out, pursuing jobs or creating jobs, learning how business works, learning what it is to have somebody reject you, and then learning how to create your own job. Mm-hmm. And then the last week was a week of lessons from the elders. So each day, an elder gave a different lesson, whether it was about music, life, sex, Montu arts, and spirituality. But each day was a different day for elders to teach them a life lesson. Now, that made a difference in their lives. Even when they do go a certain way, and, you know, everybody has their struggle, but they come back because I believe the rites of passage taught them about who they really are.
Yeah.
I think we get it. The thing I'm trying to say with the rites of passage is that we as a people need to be more African than American. We call ourselves Afrikan-Amerikans, but most people should call themselves American Africans.
Mm-hmm.
Because they're more American than they are African.
Right, right.
And if you're really going to be African-American, then that Africa should be first.
Yes.
The rites of passage, our traditions of rites of passage. We shouldn't be celebrating the 4th of July. We should be celebrating Juneteenth.
Yes.
We should be celebrating that. We shouldn't be celebrating Christmas. We should be celebrating Kwanzaa. We should be eating our own diets, because I think a diet can also make you crazy.
Yes, and I want to talk to you about that too. But go ahead.
So I just think if we go back to being more African than American, I think we would stop losing our minds. And because it's when you trying to be somebody else, and nobody's told you who you are as a young warrior, it can drive you crazy, because it drove me crazy when I was young. I wasn't innocent. I was a gangbanger when I was young. Mm-hmm. And that's why I completely overstand gangbang culture. And because I overstand it is why I know what it really is.
Right. And
I know that it's young warriors that are looking for an outlet to be warriors.
Right.
Because they don't want to be soft. I want to be the 52 philosophy. One of is you're a peaceful spirit that dwells in a body of violence. And that's what they want to be. They still want to be able to dwell in the body of violence. They don't want to be a peaceful spirit that dwells in peaceful body that can be taken advantage of.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And because nobody is teaching them that this is your way. Come here, let me teach you 52 blocks. Let me teach you Dambe. Let me teach you Bore. Let me teach you Capoeira. Let me teach you what you are as a warrior. Because they don't get that, they end up trying to get it themselves, and you get that through the gang culture. You get that through fighting against the system. I think that too is DNA. I think a lot of times we as black men, we want to fight the system without knowing how to fight the system. Mm-hmm. We just rebel. We rebel the system. That's what it is. We rebel against the system, but we don't fight the system.
Right.
And that's what a lot of stuff is that's going on. Rebellion is not a fist fight. Right. A child can rebel by having a temper tantrum. Right. That temper tantrum doesn't do anything to you. You're still in control.
Yeah. Yeah.
But if you start to fight me, then I have to fight back. I have to use something. I have to just not be mentally. And I think that's what black men, because we haven't learned to be warriors and we learn to be gangbangers or gangsters or stick-up kids, then we don't have no code. Mm-hmm. And because we have no code, we don't protect our women. Mm-hmm. Because we don't have no code, we don't protect our communities. Mm-hmm. Because we don't have no code, we don't build our own businesses. Because we don't have no code, we don't create our own cinema. Because we don't have no code, we don't write our own story. Because we don't have no code, we don't dictate and check record of our own history. Why we still got other people writing our history in this day and age? There's no reason for that. You need that Montu spirit, that Montu art to create a code, create discipline, so you can take back over your life and your community.
Beautiful, man. Beautiful. Let's take another station ID. And on the other side, I want to talk about fitness, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
Okay.
Most definitely.
Hold on 1 second.
You are listening to the Bitter Medicine Podcast on KWAC Radio.
When will African people have basic rights? When will we be protected? When will our cost of living be eliminated? When will our cultures be preserved? We need a new leadership, one that has studied the problems and learned the solutions. The Pro-Black Compendium is the book to start off that leadership. Quotations, essays, poems, stories, codes of conduct, curricula, principles, relationship advice, marketing tips, group economics, games, book clubs, movie nights, chronologies, civilizations, wars, warriors, authors, songs, conflict resolution. The list goes on. There is no book more necessary for starting our people on the path to African redemption.
Peace, family. This is Oni, inviting you to listen to the pro-black perspective, where black problems are addressed with black solutions.
Greetings, family. This is Koku, host of the Bitter Medicine Podcast. In case you didn't know, we have an online book club called the Bitter Medicine Book Club. Every month, we will select a book to inspire the Bitter Medicine Podcast listening audience to read along together. At the end of the month, we will have a call-in show and book discussion. This is a great, dynamic way for readers to not only enjoy a book, but also have others to bounce ideas off of. They say if you want to keep anything away from black people, put it in a book. Don't allow this to be true. Head over to bittermedicineblogs.com and subscribe to our newsletter for important updates. Do that today. Join our reading collective today and empower yourselves, your family, and your community. Peace and blessings.
You are listening to the Bitter Medicine Podcast on KWAC Radio.
Welcome back to the Bitter Medicine Podcast. This is your host, Koku, and today I'm joined by Mr. Diallo Frazier, who the author of The Tao of 52, where he expounds upon the 52 block fighting system, which is a derivative of the Montu arts that came to America through the Middle Passage and is still practiced today. We are talking, deep stuff here today. Mr. Diallo is just a great guest. Mr. Frazier, I want to talk about fitness. In your book, you have a chapter called The Iron Body. And
Yes.
I struggle with fitness as well. I fluctuate up and down, and I'm really trying to tighten up. And I see you actually have basically a workout in this book, and I thought that was great. That gives me inspiration. Talk about the importance of fitness, not just for the art, but just for our community.
And and general, from a martial artist perspective, fitness also becomes a reflection of one's spirit.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to build your spirit up by building your body up. Because the stronger you are physically, and I'm not saying you got to be some big giant bodybuilder and all that other stuff. That's not what I'm saying.
Right.
What I'm saying is, like, if you get up in the morning and you come out of bed and you do 20 push-ups and get up and then go use the bathroom, that starts to create a mental discipline and creates a strength within your body. Because if you keep doing 20 push-ups every morning, you're still, in a month, you're going to be stronger than you were the month that you started.
Right.
Not only are you going to be physically stronger, you're going to be more mentally disciplined. Because now you're creating a discipline that's maybe 5 minutes, 2 minutes. But that in that 2 minutes, your mind is disciplined now, not just to get up and just go use the bathroom, make your cup of coffee, whatever. But now it's then it starts to crave the fitness. Because now your mind is saying, this is what we're supposed to do. I'm supposed to get up, do my 25 push-ups, get up, then start my day. I can't. Then say you do 25 push-ups at night. But now your mind is changing. No longer is your mind looking at fitness as an obstacle. Now it's just looked at as an instinctive movement, like walking.
Mm-hmm.
So now the discipline and strength within the body starts to build spirit. Because when you see yourself change, and I'm not just talking about from a physical perspective, I'm talking about from a strength perspective now. If I did 25 push-ups in the morning, 25 push-ups at night, that's 50 push-ups a day.
Yeah.
I get stronger within a month. In a month, I might have had a back problem that's not there no more. Because now my muscles are being used. And because they're being used now it's strengthening my back. I may have had to bang something that has a twist top on the counter to loosen it up before, and now I'm just ripping it open.
Right.
It's just, and that little stuff actually builds up your spirit and says, damn, I'm feeling kind of good now. My back, I don't have those back problems no more because my back is getting stronger, and I'm doing sit-ups, so now my stomach is getting stronger. So now I don't have a back problem no more because my ab center is being used, and my back is being used. And that's with just 50 push-ups, 25 push in the morning, 25 at night. And fitness and nutrition go hand in hand. Because once you discipline yourself with fitness, then you want to fuel your body correctly. Just like your body calls to be fueled correctly. It calls for good stuff in. Don't get me wrong, you still going to have your times when you're going to eat something that may be a little sweet, or you might have a little fish fry Friday or whatever. But as a whole, you're going to look at what it feels like. Again, this goes back to how I've always been, and I've always experimented on myself. When people said, okay, you can't eat fried foods and no vegetables and this and that and be as fit as you want. I didn't believe it. So let me see. And it is actually true, because once I started eating foods that were not that good, I still was trying to exercise the same way, but my body wasn't fueled the same way. So I didn't have the energy that I had before. And that's what it is. It's like if you have a luxury car and it calls for super unleaded and you just keep putting regular in it, that car is not going to drive as good.
Yep.
You're going to have a tune-up quicker than you usually would. Your oil is going to need to be changed faster because you're not putting the right, because that just by putting that gas in there and it's going through everything, circulating through the engine and the carburetor and the different functions of the car, now it's affecting everything around, not just the gas tank. It's not affecting the gas, just the gas tank. It's affecting the carburetor, it's affecting the engine, it's affecting just different things now. Now it's like, oh, I got to put the right fuel in to make this car run right.
Right, right.
And that's the same thing with our bodies. We have to put the right fuel in so we can run correctly. And good fuel will also keep you mentally focused. A lot of this fast food that we eat in the Black community, because it's so cheap, and I get it, because a lot of times we're living in a poverty situation and we're trying to eat what we can eat. But we need to go back to saying, okay, I'm not going to buy my children a bunch of fast food. Maybe I'm going to need to meal prep. And maybe I need to go ahead and say that 3 days a week we eat as vegetarians.
Mm-hmm.
If I can't afford to have some meat. Because that's what my mom did. When I grew up, we were poor.
Mm-hmm.
So we ate meat on Sundays, Wednesdays, and Fridays.
Mm.
Because we couldn't afford that. The other days was just non-meat dishes.
Mm-hmm.
And it fueled the body right in, and we were still, and she cooked. And I think we need to get back to cooking.
Yes.
I think a lot of the unhealthiness in the Black community has to do with not cooking. And mothers not teaching their daughters how to cook anymore.
I agree.
And looking at cooking, you know, we've been to, again, we're in this society trying to, instead of fight the society, we're going along with it or having a temper tantrum, like I said earlier. Because when you sit there and listen to somebody tell you a woman ain't supposed to cook or ain't supposed to know womanly things, and you need to be a man, that messes us up. That's not our culture.
Mm-hmm.
And because, and I'm not saying a man can't cook either. You know, I know how to cook. I cook for myself. I don't have a woman living with me.
Right.
I live by myself, so I have to cook for myself. My grandmother taught me how to cook. And I like cooking. But what I'm saying is when you have your family, you have to learn how to cook. Because, again, that goes back to being able to be self-sufficient. And to me, that goes back to Montu arts, teaching self-sufficiency. And it goes back to, I believe, our queens should learn some Montu arts myself, too.
Right.
Because it instills a discipline within them. Because cooking is discipline. It takes discipline to say, okay, maybe I can't afford to buy a bunch of chicken, fish, and beef, but I can buy enough for Sunday, Wednesday, and Friday.
Mm-hmm.
And then I can cook these non-meat dishes on these off days, but I can still also, if it's about the speed of doing it, I can meal prep on Saturday or Sunday or whatever off day I have. I can meal prep. And you can't tell me you can't meal prep because, you know, I've heard people tell me, well, I don't have time because on my off days I got to do this, and that, and that, and that. I'm like, you never watch TV? You never listen to music?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And indeed they do. They watching 4 hours of television,
Mm-hmm.
which that could be an hour of that, 2 hours of that to meal prep.
Mm-hmm. You can meal prep while watching those things, as a matter of fact.
You can meal prep, yeah, exactly. You can meal prep and watch TV at the same time.
Yeah.
So it's just about preparing ourselves, being disciplined, and I think all of that discipline really comes from the Montu arts. Because you even think there were queens in Nubia that were fierce warriors.
Yeah.
And they also still cooked because they had a discipline. They had a discipline that made them better women, that made them strong and strength. And strength strength lies in also upliftment of others.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny how people don't they think when a woman, especially, and I'm just saying as a whole, we need to protect our women, and I'm looking at our communities as far as diet plan.
Yeah.
Not eating right. The woman, if her man has diabetes and he's still out there trying to eat this and that, the woman is the one who uplifts him and says, no, you can't eat that.
Yeah.
She's the one that says, okay, since he likes this, I'm going to find an alternative way to make what he likes that's healthy.
Absolutely.
So now she feeds her man the right stuff so he can stay around and be strong and be disciplined. And the black woman is the most loyal, dedicated woman on this planet. And you think about during slavery, did you know that they didn't have to capture the black woman? That she was so loyal that during slavery, they would capture the black man. And when she saw her man going off of that boat, she was like, no, he ain't going by himself. I know who he is. I know what he's capable of. And when I go with him, I know I can uplift him to be back to who he is.
Powerful.
And you need that. And they took that away. And when you take that loyalty of the black woman away from the black man, and the black man doesn't know that he's supposed to be loyal to the black woman, and that together they create a unstoppable force, then that's what is wrong with the community. With nutrition, with self-sufficiency, and with I don't want to say the lack of education from a Nubian perspective.
Yeah, the miseducation.
The miseducation of the Negroes, as the book is called.
Yeah,
so, but that's that, and I believe that Montu Arts is something that brings that all back, because that's what it did for me. And I didn't start off with 52. I started off with my brother, and my brother was my instructor when we was young. My brother in Chicago was kind of a terror. He was just fighting all the time, and my grandmother, because he didn't have anything to home that warrior spirit.
Right.
And my grandmother was like, I'm gonna put him in this karate, and that's what she called it. It wasn't even karate. It was actually Bruce Lee's RJKD. They ended up learning, and it was but back then the instructors were black. All the instructors were black, so they put their own black perspective on it, just like boxing. It comes from Kemet. Then it was reinterpreted by Westerners, by Europeans, and then with the reinterpretation of it, they you still had a Muhammad Ali, you still had a Sugar Ray Leonard, you still had a Roy Jones Jr.
Yeah.
You still had people that knew the rules of it, but still brought that rhythm that we have.
Yeah, yeah.
And I just named a few. There's plenty of other people that have that rhythm, but you know what I'm saying? They just had that rhythm.
Yeah.
I'm going to go back to 52 blocks. First black heavyweight champion, Jack Johnson. He used to fight what they call the Chipman circuit.
Yeah.
And in this, they would put 10, 15 boxers in the same ring. And the last man standing was the winner. And Jack Johnson used to win these fights.
Yeah. I heard he was doing that since he was a child, right?
Yeah, and he was doing but he had went to jail. And he learned JailHouse rock.
Okay.
He fought. So when he was fighting, and if you look at some of the articles, they was like, he's using his elbows and forearms to block the shots and then attacking right after that, because that's 52.
Interesting.
So it's always been there within us. It's always, when we have, and saying that you took a man that had struggle, you took a man that came from hard circumstances, and when he learned his Montu art and he adjusted it to the system, he became a world champion, and it changed. He not only changed his world, he changed the world around other people and inspiring. And I'm saying, when you get your Montu art, you can change the world.
Yeah. You see, you said something when we were talking about fitness and diet a second ago, that's the concept of self-sufficiency, which the Montu arts promote, will lead people, if they start to believe and practice it, it will lead people to realize, like with food, you mentioned the fast food. We live in what's called food deserts. The black community lives in these huge food deserts where you don't find good food around you, right?
Yeah.
And if we learn that self-sufficiency, we would realize that and start to develop cooperatives where we could bring in better food for better health. You know what I'm saying?
And I completely agree with that. And that's why I believe that if we had the Montu arts, the self-sufficiency of the Montu arts would say, okay, this is an empty lot over here. Let me get with this brother. Let me get with this sister. Let's put our funds together and let's buy this empty lot. Mm-hmm. Now, after we buy this empty lot, let's dig it up and make our own garden for the community. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So we can have our own food here. And we don't have to worry about if you poor, well, this is a community garden.
Right.
Go pick you some greens. Go get you some cabbage. Go get some radishes. Go get some tomatoes. Not some tomatoes, but some cucumbers, some celery. Go get some oranges, some apples. Because once you start doing that food that is naturally grown, number one, you're going to have people wanting to, you're going to have youngsters growing up learning how to cultivate themselves.
Yeah.
So now that's a natural instinct.
Yeah. Yeah.
So now when they grow up, they're naturally going to want to have their own garden. So they're going to be able to feed themselves their own food that they can monitor, and then be able to nourish their brain, because food nourishes your brain. Your brain controls everything else. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And if you're putting psychotic foods in you, it's going to create a psychotic mind. When you're putting righteous foods in you, it's going to create a righteous mind.
Beautiful. Yep.
And that's what we have to learn how to do. I'm going to give you another example of me experimenting on myself. I ate out every day for about 4 months. Mm. And that just not fast food, though. I ate out at restaurants to try to prove, to see if you can actually still just, if these restaurants, because, according to everybody else, these upper restaurants, the food is different and it's better and it's good for you. And I developed this ulcer type feeling in my stomach from eating out for 4 months straight. And it would never go away, no matter what, no matter how much water I drank, no matter, I'll try to eat some fruit, just eat some fresh leafy green vegetables. No matter what, but I wouldn't eat it at home. I would still go out and eat this stuff. Mm-hmm. And I still would have that feeling. Once the 4 months was over and I went back to cooking for myself, the stomach pain went away. Because I had shopped. Like there's a black farmer. I wish I could remember his website right now. But I go to him and I order vegetables from him. That's the first thing I did was order his stuff. Had it sent to me. Mm-hmm. Once it was sent to me, I started eating my vegetables. I started eating and he actually has his own fish farm too. So I had him send me this fish, vegetable. He also has different meats, but he does his own growing, and he's his own farmer, and he's located in Georgia. He's not in Atlanta, but it's like right outside of Atlanta. And I started eating these clean foods again and cooking my own food, and my body felt different. My mind felt different. That ulcer feeling in my stomach went completely away. It was just amazing that righteous food, creates a righteous body and a righteous mind. And when you're disciplined, you don't have a problem trying to make sure that you're eating righteously.
Yeah.
And that back to the Montu arts of creating that discipline.
Yeah, so I have had experience. I don't know if you've heard of the late Dr. Sebi, but
Of course.
when I was eating 90+% a Sebian diet, man, I felt completely different, completely different, and I'm trying to get back to that now. You know, I fell off a little bit, but I'm trying to get back to that that 95 and up percent Sebian diet, and your mind works better. Just everything just functions much better. And I think you're right. I think because of the food that our community tends to eat every day, because you see, our community relies on the system, so to speak.
Other people.
Yeah, other people. We rely so much on other people that we lose ourselves, and we're disconnected from who we are, and it affects us in how we think, how we act, everything.
Yes.
You know?
Yes, and I think Dr. Sebi even said something about how that you're eating other people's foods and other people's diets can affect you like that.
Yes.
He said
we have to eat an African diet. Yeah.
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 And that's I mean, and even doing that, when you do that, then you start becoming a community too. If you start eating your own diet, because now where do you go get your diet? You're gonna go to your supermarket to get the fruits, vegetables, things that they may not be in the European supermarket. But if you go to your local Ethiopian market or your local Nigerian market or your local Tanzanian market or whatever it is, and they have fruits, vegetables, herbs, spices, lentils that our ancestors ate, it's gonna reason like, okay, I'm eating this stuff now. I'm thinking different. Okay, this is why they built the pyramids, and because their minds were so focused because their diet was right, and even that. I'm going back to the Montu arts, but I'm still going to tie it in with the mindset. Nubians were the guards for the Kemetic. Most of the Kemetic guard were Nubians. They were from Nubia. And what people don't realize is that there's more pyramids in Nubia, which is called Sudan now.
Yes.
Than there is in Kemet. So you have that Nubian guard that also brought their diet with them. So that mindset, and then you have brothers and sisters up from Ethiopia coming into Kemet. So Kemet is a combination of Nubia and Ethiopian eating and mindsets put together to create that Kemetic greatness. And it goes back to just discipline of Montu arts, the Montu arts that was brought down from Nubia and the Ethiopian philosophies that were brought up into Kemet. So it was, and then look at what it did. You look at Kemet like, this is some amazing stuff, because they were eating right and had Montu discipline.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't like to talk about the Montu discipline. That they try to act like, and the funny thing is that in Kemet, it's in stone. It can't go nowhere.
Yes.
They show the Montu arts, pure system, the grappling system, the weapon system, the kicking system, the spearing system. It's all on the walls. But they act like it never existed.
Yes.
But the discipline, like I said, the Montu arts will make you physically, mentally, spiritually, nutritionally sound and right, because it creates a discipline that the body craves. The body starts to crave for greatness. And that discipline builds greatness. I mean, I'm thinking about Jack Johnson again, who I was talking about earlier when he fought at the Chitlin circuit and he was in jail. He created the wrench.
Well, the monkey wrench, yeah.
The monkey wrench.
Yeah.
But do you hear people talking about it?
No, you
about
don't.
Doing that?
Nope. Mm-mm. Not at all.
So that shows you that a warrior is going to think differently. A Montu artist is going to think differently. They're going to be able to figure stuff out because of their discipline and because of the nutrition that they're putting in their body. And that's
So I need to take a quick station ID. On the other side, I want to talk about something that I think is very important. If you don't mind sticking around for a little bit longer, I want to talk about the rules of hood warfare. Okay, so let me take a quick station break, and we'll be back on the other side talking about the rules of hood warfare.
You are listening to the Bitter Medicine Podcast on KWAC Radio.
When will African people have basic rights? When will we be protected? When will our cost of living be eliminated? When will our cultures be preserved? We need a new leadership, one that has studied the problems and learned the solutions. The Pro-Black Compendium is the book to start off that leadership. Quotations, essays, poems, stories, codes of conduct, curricula, principles, relationship advice, marketing tips, group economics, games, book clubs, movie nights, chronologies, civilizations, wars, warriors, authors, songs, conflict resolution. The list goes on. There is no book more necessary for starting our people on the path to African redemption.
Peace, family. This is Oni, inviting you to listen to the Pro-Black Perspective, where black problems are addressed with black solutions.
Greetings, family. This is Koku, host of the Bitter Medicine Podcast. In case you didn't know, we have an online book club called the Bitter Medicine Book Club. Every month, we will select a book to inspire the Bitter Medicine Podcast listening audience to read along together. At the end of the month, we will have a call-in show and book discussion. This is a great, dynamic way for readers to not only enjoy a book, but also have others to bounce ideas off of. They say if you want to keep anything away from black people, put it in a book. Don't allow this to be true. Head over to bittermedicineblogs.com and subscribe to our newsletter for important updates. Do that today. Join our reading collective today and empower yourselves, your family, and your community. Peace and blessings.
You are listening to the Bitter Medicine Podcast on KWAC Radio.
Welcome back to the Bitter Medicine Podcast with your host, Koku. I am here with Mr. Diallo Frazier. We're discussing the 52 blocks fighting system. We're discussing his book, The Tao or the Tao of 52. Please support the brother and purchase that book on Amazon. You could also purchase the companion book he has, a book of philosophical quotations. Purchase those books today. I read them deep, and it's the basis of this podcast today, which is just as deep as the books. Diallo, in your book, The Tao of 52, you have an interesting chapter here called The Rules of Hood Warfare, and I think this is so perfect for especially youth in our community, but all of us in the black community. We really need to know how to protect our community from within and without. I want you to talk, set it up for me these rules? How many rules are there in the rules of hood warfare?
There's 7 rules in the rules of hood warfare.
And that 7 means something to you, right?
Yes, 7 is always the number of completeness and the number of the Most High.
Yeah.
So we always are on the 7 because we're always on the God level.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we are looking at. I mean, even when the 5%ers practiced 52, they called them the God blocks because 5 and 2 equals 7, and in supreme mathematics, it's 7 is the number of God, the Most High. So that's what the 7 of the 7 rules it just represents on the level of the Most High. So, with the rules, a lot of the rules come from actually rules that I learned. Some of the rules I learned from gang members back in the day, and which is interesting because it goes back to the instinct that we were talking about, that genetic instinct of being a warrior. Because the OG told me like a few of those rules, that ignorance, and when you banging it and you don't know nothing, that's the worst thing that can happen. So I turned that into there's no greater sin in warfare than ignorance. You know what I'm saying? Another one he told me about, don't be trusting these fools who just be bumping their gums. Look at what they do when the shit go down. That goes back into the rule: beware of those who talk loud but do little during time of war. You know what I'm saying? So that it's just reinterpreted by certain things that I learned, and just you got your the rule number 1 is listen before you talk, look before you walk, and observe before you stalk. And those 3 things embody to me that one first rule is something that I think everybody should. If you just take that one rule, your life will change.
Yeah. Because
when you listen before you talk, you're gathering information. And everything is gathering information. Now, if this person is giving you their information, but you're not giving them yours, then you're learning and they're not.
Right.
So that gives you an advantage. Because you can never learn when you're talking at the same time as somebody else is talking.
Yes.
When you're talking and they're talking, and everybody, you're trying to be heard, you're not trying to learn. Because you're not listening, you're trying to just make sure that you are heard. So if you learn how to gather information and realize that silence is a weapon, a lot of things change, whether it's at the workplace, whether it's at building your own business, whether it's at, like we were talking about earlier, creating a community garden, and you go somewhere and you just learn and you just listen. If you look before you walk, it just means that just peep out the scene and the things that you're about to get into, because a lot of times we're not looking at what's in our surroundings. I'm gonna give you a physical perspective. If I look before I walk and I enter a room, what I'm doing is I'm analyzing it. I might be analyzing who's in a room. If I'm in a meeting, I'm gonna take it from there. If I'm in a meeting, now I'll come in there. Okay, the vice president is over here. Oh, the payroll is right there. So, am I getting a raise or am I getting fired? Because now I'm looking. You know what I'm saying? I'm looking before I walk in this room. I'm seeing who's in there. Now, observing them and seeing what's going on, now I know who I'm dealing with. Now I know that this has to do with finance, and it has to do something with the majorly with the company. If I'm walking to a room or a club, I'm looking at the exit. I'm looking at how many people in here that may look like they're not here to have a good time. Mm-hmm. I'm looking at potential dangers, then I'm also looking at potential weapons that I can create from what's laying around. So, you just gotta, when you approach life in the sense of looking before you walk into a situation, and that situation is not fearful. I mean, you're not worried about the situation. We like to fear, we don't like to worry. We're not worried about that situation, and we're not intimidated about that situation because we looked in there before we walked in there. Yeah. And the last thing was observe before you stalk. And to observe before you stalk, it's a little advanced part of the look before you walk part. Like observe before you stalk, that means that you're looking to conquer something.
Right.
Now you're not just looking to enter something, you're looking to conquer something.
Right.
So you have to look at what it is that makes this thing on a high level. So now, and what I need to do to conquer it, to take it away from that high level. So now I got to look at its habits. I got to look at if I'm a football player. I'm just trying to simplify. If I'm a football player and I want to be the quarterback of this team, and they telling me I can only run. I'm only good at running because I'm an athletic quarterback. I'm not a traditional quarterback, whatever that is. So I say, okay, let me look at what this dude. Let me observe what this guy is doing. Let me observe him before I stalk him. Okay, he's doing this, and that. He reads the defense a certain way. Okay, now I'm going to stalk him. I'm going to stalk him by looking at his weaknesses. Mm-hmm. He can't run. He can't create in the midst of chaos. He can't inspire. So now, since I observed what he did, now I'm stalking him. By stalking him, I'm going to come in there. I'm going to move out the pocket and then throw down the field. I'm going to move out the pocket and run down the field. I'm going to grab somebody that he may have just chewed out and made feel like they was nothing and tell them how great they are and how I need them to do this for me. You catch this ball from because it's coming to you. Now I'm stalking his position by being better than him because I had to observe him first, and then I had to go and see his weaknesses and dominate his weaknesses and make sure that I don't have those same weaknesses. So I have to observe before I stalk, and stalking has to do with conquering, and that has to do if I want to buy a plot of land so I can build my own supermarket. I have to observe what this other supermarket did when they started. Mm-hmm. Okay, they went to this bank or that bank, or they got this type of loan or that type of loan. They had this type of interest and not that type of interest. So now I observe what they did, and now I go on and do it my own way. Maybe I go to a black bank. I go to a black investor. I go to get a co-op. Maybe I involve the community in building this whole supermarket together. So we all eat there. We all get paid from there. We all are employed there, but we all own it. So now I observed what they did, but I saw holes in it, and then I filled those holes for my community and for my culture. That rule number one, I think, is something that I try to live by most of all.
Mm-hmm. I want to talk about one more rule because I'm only talking about these 2 rules out of the 7. I want you guys listening to go out and purchase this book and see the other rules. It's so important. These rules are so important that this is really, when Diallo mentioned earlier, a lot of our men don't live by a code. This is the code right here. You understand? This is how we are going to protect our community. The other rule I want to discuss is Rule 3. Rule 3 says that never make emotional decisions. It will always lead to defeat.
Always lead to defeat.
And I find a lot of our men, and our women too, but I kind of expect certain things from women.
Yeah.
But our men, our young men especially, are making a lot of emotional decisions. Talk about that.
I think that's emotion is something that we're passionate people, we're passionate men, but because we haven't learned how, again, to have a Montu art, because Montu arts teaches you how to control your emotions.
Mm-hmm.
It teaches you how to focus your emotions more than control them, but focus them. Like, should I just jump up in a rage right now and just do this? Should I? Because you got to think, the FBI studied us. And what did they say? They said we're emotional so we can play to their emotions to make them do certain things.
Damn.
And they sent that out as a memo. If you play to the black man's emotions, then you can dominate him because he's so passionate about something. So if he just reacts without any Montu training, it can put him in a bad situation.
Mm-hmm.
And emotions are not logical. And as men, we're supposed to be logical. We're supposed to analyze the situation, because that goes back to the rule number one. We learn discipline and logic with rule number one.
Mm-hmm.
And rule number three, never making emotional decisions. Emotional decisions are irrational decisions. And with irration comes mistakes. And with mistakes you become a victim.
Right.
And now you become a victim. Now you're no longer a conqueror. And emotional decisions take away your ability to be who you are. Warrior, king, conquerors. So that emotion has to learn how to be focused as a Montu artist. Because once you learn how to focus your emotion, you also learn that you pretty much can do anything in this world, technically do anything in this world. If I focus my emotions enough, I can take my hand and punch a steel pipe and it won't hurt.
Mm-hmm.
I can if my emotions are focused, I can be like Jack Johnson and create the wrench.
Yes.
If my emotions are focused, I can go ahead and create a co-op and buy up land with my community, and we all can own the community that we live in and create our own peaceful nation.
Yes.
When I'm not emotional, but when I'm emotional, I'm saying, fuck that shit. I'm gonna just go out and just go off.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And when you just go off, then you make mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
And when you make mistakes, you lose.
Ah.
Emotional decisions equal losses. And that's why, and I'm not saying to have lack of emotion, because we're black people, we are passionate.
Mm-hmm.
We use our emotion, but it's to focus the emotion. That's the thing. When I used to get into combat situations, a lot of times my anger was my emotion, but I knew how to focus that anger and make that anger work for me.
Right.
A lot of times when I used to get angry. Anger used to be my biggest emotion when I was younger, all the way up until I was probably about 33. But I know how to focus it. And the thing is, I remember one time, my ex-wife, we were at our house, and I had the home insurance to come down to fix the air conditioner, and the guys kept delaying when they were going to come down, and I'm pissed off. I'm calling the people up. Look, I'm paying insurance. You want my payment every day, but you don't want to have them to come down and fix my air conditioner. It's hot, blah, blah, blah. Finally, on I think the third day, I said, F it. And I walked outside, and because I was so angry, I sat there, and by the end of the day, the air conditioner was fixed because I bought a book. I went on the internet. I learned what the book was that for this unit. I went to several different spots, different air conditioning spots, to see if they had this book. Ended up finding the book. Came back home, sat there until I fixed that air conditioner because I was pissed off. Now, if it was just a straight emotional decision, I kick it, I slam it, I hit it with a hammer, and it still broke. The situation hasn't been solved. But because I focused my emotion and learned how to control it, and that an emotional decision happened, but that an emotional plan happened. I went, calculated it, focused, and got it done. An emotional decision, I break it even more. And that's using that, just that simple example. The emotion, to use emotion, to let emotion guide you in war, which we're behind enemy lines and we're in a war, but we don't recognize it. Emotion will make you lose. Being able to focus yourself and focus your emotion and become passionate and not emotional. Just use it as passion and not emotion. Passion will fix it. The emotion will break it.
I always liken it to that those emotional responses. I liken it to being childlike, and a child isn't going to defeat an adult, right? Ever, because they're working off an emotion, basically a tantrum. You know what I'm saying? It's not calculated. It's not about size so much. It's just about it's not thought through. Yeah, it's the mind. You know. Yeah.
Logical thought. Like I said, that you take logic out of it when you use emotional decisions. There's no logic behind emotional decisions whatsoever.
Yeah.
None. The woman who's abused by a man, her emotions tell her that she loves him even though he's beaten her, blacking her eyes and sending her to the hospital. Now, if she was logical, she'd be like, yo, what I felt when we first together, this ain't it. Let me get out of this situation, get my child or get myself. I'm going to go ahead and if I don't have nobody, I'm going to go move into the shelter, or I'm going to just live in my car until the shelter's open with, because anything is better than this fool beat me to death. But her emotions are not logical. And the illogic of an emotion tells you that getting beat is okay, means I love you. And that, from that example, that's how I feel about the Black community. We are living in an emotional time, in an emotional era where we feel that somehow this system that is murdering us, miseducating us, putting us in a poverty situation, somehow we need to love it. God bless America.
Damn. Yeah.
I'm an American. No matter how bad she beat this, no matter how bad I get beat by her, no matter how much she killed my children, my mama, raped my mama, beat my children, killed my father, incarcerated and enslaved my brother, I love her because it's still the greatest place in the world. Ain't been outside the country, but it's the greatest place in the world. We are an abused wife. This country was built on our backs. We have created some of the greatest inventions in this country that made this country rich. And we get none of the benefits of our labor, of our minds, of our spirits.
Yeah.
And matter of fact, even the music. Music is one of the biggest things that America has benefited from.
Yep.
And think about all the jazz musicians, blues musicians, rock and roll became something, I don't know what rock and roll was created by Chuck Berry, Little Richard, Fats Domino. It was called nigga music when it came out. Then it became, you you wouldn't even recognize it.
No.
For what it is now.
No.
And a lot of white people don't even think that we invented it.
No, they don't know. Yep.
And I liken that to how, and I'm not being preachy on that. I'm just saying I liken that to how they use the Bible on us.
Mm-hmm.
That's our story. We created it. They took it and reinterpreted it, and it looks nothing like it used to be.
Right.
Just like how white rock and roll don't look like Chuck Berry, Little Richard, Fats Domino.
Nope.
It don't even look like it gave birth to the same thing at all.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But it's our music that we created. But we don't even listen to it no more because we're like, what the hell is that garbage?
Right.
Because we haven't went to the source and said, oh, this is the source. This is what it really is. Let me go listen to where this started off for. Oh, they hated it? And that's the same thing that they did to jazz. They stole jazz. Jazz ain't the jazz that Coltrane, Miles Davis,
Monk. Yeah.
Monk. Oh, Thelonious Monk. That's my favorite. I don't know why. That's my favorite. That they have, and you listen to Kenny G, that ain't the same thing.
Oh, my God. My God. Yeah.
So this is how the enemy does. They reinterpret stuff and then just, kind of drive you crazy. And then your lack of emotional control takes over.
So again, if you're listening to this podcast, make sure purchase this book. I want Diallo to be able to report back to me and say, man, I sold a couple dozen books after this podcast aired. Buy this book because this section especially is what your sons need to hear, what you need to hear, what your daughters need to hear. And this is what we need to live by every day. There's 7 rules to hood warfare, and we need to engage in protecting our communities based on codes like the one that Diallo has in his book. Diallo, I'm going to take another station ID. On the other side, we'll do the last segment. The last segment will be me asking you some questions about you and your thoughts on other martial arts, okay?
Okay.
All right. Hold on a second.
You are listening to the Bitter Medicine Podcast on KWAC Radio.
When will African people have basic rights? When will we be protected? When will our cost of living be eliminated? When will our cultures be preserved? We need a new leadership. One that has studied the problems and learned the solutions. The Pro-Black Compendium is the book to start off that leadership. Quotations, essays, poems, stories, codes of conduct, curricula, principles, relationship advice, marketing tips, group economics, games, book clubs, movie nights, chronologies, civilizations, wars, warriors, authors, songs, conflict resolution. The list goes on. There is no book more necessary for starting our people on the path to African redemption.
Peace, family. This is Oni, inviting you to listen to the Pro-Black Perspective, where black problems are addressed with black solutions.
Greetings, family. This is Koku, host of the Bitter Medicine Podcast. In case you didn't know, we have an online book club called the Bitter Medicine Book Club. Every month, we will select a book to inspire the Bitter Medicine Podcast listening audience to read along together. At the end of the month, we will have a call-in show and book discussion. This is a great, dynamic way for readers to not only enjoy a book, but also have others to bounce ideas off of. They say if you want to keep anything away from black people, put it in a book. Don't allow this to be true. Head over to bittermedicineblogs.com and subscribe to our newsletter for important updates. Do that today. Join our reading collective today and empower yourselves, your family, and your community. Peace and blessings.
You are listening to the Bitter Medicine Podcast on KWAC Radio.
Welcome back to the Bitter Medicine Podcast. I'm your host, Koku, and I'm joined today by Mr. Diallo Frazier, the author of The Tao of 52. Please go out and purchase that book on Amazon today. This discussion has been based off of that book and based off of his knowledge, his personal knowledge of the fighting style of 52 blocks. Right now, Mr. Frazier, I want to ask you, how did you really get into this martial art? I know you mentioned your brother, and I guess he was in karate.
Jeet Kune Do.
Jeet Kune Do, Bruce Lee's Jeet Kune Do. But what made you really get deep into it?
It was an untraditional way. When I was younger, like I said earlier, I used to gangbang, and I was fought a lot in the community, and I was known as a fighter. And there was a guy named Big Ant. He was a big guy, strong guy in the local neighborhood. He was known as the collector. He was somebody that worked for underground gambling. I don't know if it's a company. Just underground gambling in the neighborhood. It was like an underground gambling casino in the neighborhood.
Okay.
It wasn't a casino. It was like, they went to different garages, different warehouses,
right,
stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And he was the guy that if you had a marker and you didn't pay it, he was the one that came to talk to you.
Mm.
And he saw me around, and everybody, looked at him like he was, he was OG, he was the guy. And at that time, he was only like 20-something, but I was 16. He was like 10 years older than me. And he approached me one day, and he was like, "Man, I see your hands. You look right. And something about you, kind of smart. You don't move like everybody else. I'm going to show you how to collect. And so when you get older, you'll have a skill." He basically mentored me on collecting.
Nice.
And he also, in doing that, said, "This is a system that I'm going to show you how to fight." I'm like, "Bro, I know how to scrap. I mean, my brother taught me this. I know I've been using it on the street. I've been beating motherfuckers up. I know how to scrap." And he's like, "Nah, I'm going to show you this thing called 52 blocks. And I said, "What is that?" And he's like, "Okay, you say you know how to fight, do something." And he's like, slap. He wanted to slap box. And he started moving his arms in a way that I'd never seen before. And it was like a shield and mesmerizing at the same time. And then when I would look at him, as soon as I would concentrate on his arm movement, he would hit me. Pow. Then I try to swing. He would cut off the center line and then come up and grab me by the back of my knee, grab my pant leg, pull it up, and then punch me underneath my pants and then flip me over underneath my thigh. He'd go ahead, grab the knee, pick it up, boom, punch your hamstring, punch inside your thigh, and then trip the other leg. And I'm like, what the hell just happened? I'd never seen anything like it.
When he punched the hamstring, what did that do to you?
It made a pinching nerve in my lower back hurt. And I was like just thrown off on what he was doing. And then he was like, "Man, that's 52. I was like, let me learn it. I ain't never seen nothing like that before. And he would show it to me, but it wasn't like we had classes. I'd see him do it on somebody, and I'd say, "No, I saw you do this and that. Can you teach me that?"
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna show you that. Or we'd be at the time we would be at like a place like In-N-Out Burger, and we'd be in line or something. And he would say, "Come over here, and let me show you something." When nobody's around, he'd take me around by a little thing, and then he, out of nowhere, he would do stuff like that. We would just be walking. He'd look, "Let me show you this," or he'd call me up. "D, come over tomorrow," okay? And I'd come over there thinking that I was gonna learn something about collecting. And he was like, "Nah, I'm gonna go over this 52 stuff." And he would just gradually teach me. And when I learned that, and when he said it was our system, when he's like, this is my uncle's toxin when they came out of jail. And this is our stuff. This is a black system. Mm-hmm. It sparked something in me. When he said it was a black system, it changed my life. And I was under ANT for like 4 years. I was under ANT till I was like 20 years old, 16 to 20. Mm-hmm. When I was 20, I don't know what happened. I had a woman at the time, and my ex-wife, and I went to go see him for a job, and he was just saying, "Bruh, I'm showing you this. I'm about to introduce you to certain people, so you don't have to. So I'm not the middleman no more. So, I'm gonna hand you the range." And I think 2 weeks after that, I hadn't seen him. I never saw him again.
Really?
Yeah, it was crazy, but it sparked something in me. And after that, I would always resonate when he kept saying that this is our stuff. And then it got me into, like, at 20 years old was when I really started just delving into 52, because now I was by myself. Now it was no mentor. Now it was me doing it. Now it was me collecting. And then I also wanted to know about, if it's ours, then it has to be African.
Right.
It has to be Nubian. And then I started learning and going and then talking to different OGs. And I had different OGs tell me about it. They was like, "Yo, man, we call it JailHouse Rock. We call it the Shuffle. We call it the Science. We call it Alto 52." And it was just different cats that I would learn, that I would meet, that I would run into. And then it went to one cat told me, "You need to study Dennis Newsome." He said, "You need to study Dennis Newsome. This is a brother that knows all about African martial arts and the origins of everything. And he knows 52, and he knows." So I never got to meet Dennis Newsome, but I started studying his writing, studying his works. And then he started to, his teachings showed me where 52 came from. And then I was like even more intrigued after that. I was just, once I started knowing, okay, now this stuff is really, I know it's from us. And then I met another brother named Juma, because I actually did a seminar on 52 at a black-owned Montu art studio.
Nice.
And when I did that seminar, this brother that owned it said, "You need to meet Brother Juma." And Juma was from New York. And then he gave Brother Juma my number, and then Juma called me, and then that brother just started giving me an education of all the stuff that these other OGs had gave me, but he started giving me the education of the Virginia Scufflers, of moving into the jailhouse scene, coming out, the 52 where he got his name was from New York, with 52 pickup and the cars lightweight and made, anything goes, improvised weapons. It just went, he educated me a lot. And then from there, I just kept learning, kept going. And I said to myself that at some point I gotta give this to the people. And then that's when I started working with kids. Keith, he was doing something, and I started seeing what these young men would look like when I was training them. I said, it's over with now. I gotta bring this to the world, as well as it started with, again, the House of Champions doing Mark Parr, that was the other thing about the House of Champions, is that when I first started bringing out the arts, I had another book. My first book was Revelations of a Warrior. And I went out because it was about my street combat and my philosophy when it comes to real life combat, not ring combat, but life or death. I gotta live.
Is that book available on Amazon as well?
Yes, it is.
Okay, good. I'll pick that up next.
And I put that. I was going to these different dojos, with my book, talking to them about 52, saying, I would like to come here and train and teach, because, and I had two quote unquote masters, white guys, laugh at me when I said the name 52 blocks and that it was a black system. And one of them told me that it can't be a black system. There is none. And I said, oh. I said, is that right? There's no black system. I said, can we just spar? But he didn't want to spar. So I never revealed it to anybody. And it was, I went on different places. Nobody wanted to embrace it. And then I ended up going to the House of Champions by accident. I was stopping at a supermarket because I just wanted something to drink. And when I came out the supermarket, and at that time I always had a book with me, I came out the supermarket and I looked to my right, and it was a big dojo that I had never seen before. I passed this little corner area all the time, and I never noticed it. So I was like, let me just grab a book and try this one more time, because I was like, I'm cool. I'm not. I guess it wasn't meant for me to do this. I'll figure out another way. But I was like, let me just do this last thing. And I went there, and I went to the front desk, and I gave my book to the young lady. I signed it, put my number in there. And then I left, and I hadn't heard from him in like 2 weeks. And then Dorrance Publishing at the time was a little more, I was a new author with them, so they were a little more communicative, and they was like, somebody just ordered 50 books. And I'm like, dang. And they said it came from one place. And I was like, where did it come from? They said it came from the House of Champions. And when I heard that, I went back down there. And I met Mark Parr, and he embraced 52. He was the first person from the martial arts world to ever. And I was going to a lot of different dojos and quoons and gyms that, supposedly the martial arts, Montu, not Montu arts, the martial arts was supposed to be open and embracive towards every culture, everything, but they were not abrasive towards 52 blocks at all.
Right.
And Mark Parr, who's a martial artist, trained under Benny the Jet Rodriguez, and he embraced it wholeheartedly. He said, I want to see this. I want to know about this. And that's when he started letting me do those seminars. When I saw young black men that were in their 20s that were so engulfed in it, and then that's when I ended up working for kids, and I was like, yeah, I got to spread this. Got to spread it to the world.
Outside,
and Mark Parr was,
okay, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, and I said Mark Parr is also the one he's also the guy that told me that he's like, you should write a book about this.
Okay.
Because I think your community would love it. And I ended up writing the book, Tower 52.
So outside of, say, Mark Parr, your brother, aunt, Dennis Newsome, brother Juma, who's your biggest inspiration?
You said outside of that?
Yeah, outside of them.
It's Bruce Lee.
I figured that. Bruce Lee.
Bruce Lee and Professor Moses Powell. A lot of people know about Professor Moses Powell, but Professor Moses Powell was a big, strong brother from New York, and he took I can't think of it. it was an Aki jiu-jitsu system, but he Nubian-fied it, if I could say. He gave it a black rhythm.
Okay.
Because he fought on the streets, so it had to adjust to his environment. So he took it and made it his own. And I always admired him, his skill level, his knowledge of street fighting, and not just tournament fighting. The fact that he used it on the streets consistently. The fact that he took a system that was Asian and adjusted it to black culture. And those are the two biggest influences, Professor Moses Powell and Bruce Lee.
So when it comes to other martial arts or other fighting styles, where do you think 52 Blocks ranks?
I can't. For us, it ranks number one.
Okay.
But I can't rank it number one as saying that it's the ultimate art, because I also believe that for 52 is a rhythm that our people naturally have. It's a spiritual art that I think that we have. I think it's a spirit. And somebody else can learn it. I'm not saying that they can't, but I'm saying it doesn't resonate the same. That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
And I'm saying that just like capoeira, other people learn capoeira, but it doesn't resonate the same when a Nubian practices it.
Mm.
I also believe that combat, you also have to look at your body type, what your best attributes are, and then you have to have a system that fits your best attributes. If I'm have a sumo wrestler build, I might not want to take Taekwondo.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. I might want to get into sumo wrestling or kinetic wrestling. If I'm a slimmer guy, I don't think I want to be a sumo wrestler.
Right. So
I think you have to, look at your body type. But as far as 52, I think our culture, it doesn't matter. I think it hits every body type with our culture. That's why I say I ranks number one with us. Because I believe 52 with us adjusted. Because Big Ant was like 300 pounds. He was 6'4", fast, swift. I've never seen somebody that big move that smoothly.
And have power.
Well, and have power. Mm. And that he didn't just move you, because a lot of times when people are big, they hit you, it moves you, but it doesn't hurt you.
Yeah.
He hurt you and dropped you. He didn't move you, he dropped you. Mm. And I've seen him drop people. And his swiftness with the 52 elbow tap and we call it up rock. When he would up rock, his up rock was so smooth and swift and movement, and it was blinding. It was hypnotizing, is what it was, because it moved so much it looked like a blur, like you couldn't see his hands when he moved. Mm-hmm. It was just you would like, what the hell is going on? As soon as he saw that look in your face, he would punch, he would knee, he would elbow, he would come in and do a double leg pamphlet and flip you on your head. He would do that. Drop and pop and hit your stomach and then come back with an elbow to your head to bend you over. He'd hit you in the stomach with a straight left, bend you over, then reverse and elbow you on the top of your head or in the chin. He was just
smooth,
smooth with it. And he was a big guy. So that's why I say 52 is best for us, because it doesn't matter the size, the sex, the muscularity, the slimness. It adjusts to us.
What's your favorite move or submission that you think everyone, particularly our women, if they ever need to, defend themselves, what's your favorite move out there that you think is like a crushing blow? Or
I don't. I like to hit to the throat. I've noticed that any strike to the throat, elbows, chops, punches, not chops really, but more punches and elbows to the throat and neck area have always been, because you have a pneumogastric nerve on the side, you have your Adam's apple in the front, and in the back, it's the back of the neck also is a shut-off point right below the base of your head. So for me, shots to the neck are the best. I don't aim for the face. I don't aim for the chin. I aim for shots to the neck.
Okay. Because
people don't really. And the thing is, again, I goes back to, I believe, us resonating spiritually when you hear "protect your neck." That was like an old saying that we used to say. Protect. We didn't say, guard your chin. It was like, protect your neck.
Yeah. People say it all the time. Go for your, get out your neck. You know what I mean? So, because that's a vulnerable spot. Yeah.
Exactly. And that's to me, that's the most vulnerable. I think it doesn't take much power, no matter how strong the person is, with bench pressing and curling. Those nerves in the neck are the nerves in the neck. And it's a soft spot that you can put something hard on every time.
Yeah. So allow me to ask you a somewhat controversial question. This is for all the listeners who are into the fight game. Me and some college buddies of mine, this is like 20 years ago, we were having this discussion about Bruce Lee and the MMA. A friend of mine who's a martial arts practitioner told me, he said, if you put Bruce Lee in today's MMA, he'll get beaten to a bloody pulp. What's your feeling about that?
No, he would. First of all, if you read Bruce's books, he talks about what they're doing right now. He talks about knowing judo, knowing jiu-jitsu, knowing aki jiu-jitsu, knowing wrestling. He talks about that. All the stuff that they're doing now is late. It's 30 years late. He went over that already. If you look at Enter the Dragon, look at those gloves he got on.
Yeah.
That's the MMA gloves that they wear today. They're just smaller.
Yeah.
If you look at Enter the Dragon, he submits the guy with the arm bar. He was advanced. He would have been a 135-pound champion. Period. These guys are not more athletic than he was. These guys are not stronger than he was. These guys, you got to remember, he was 135 pounds, but they measured his punch pound for pound. His punch per square inch was that of a heavyweight.
Wow.
So, no, he they're doing what he said already. So no, he wouldn't have been destroyed. I firmly believe that he would have been a champion.
Well, thanks for settling that one. Because I mean, me not knowing all the technical stuff, I just felt like the way, from what I remembered of Bruce Lee, I know he trained in boxing, he trained judo, like he studied different things. Like he took the roundhouse kick. Apparently, he practiced it all night. That he got from what's the white boy name? Had that TV show? Chuck Norris. Chuck Norris.
He actually had more from a guy named Joe Louis, who was considered like the greatest kicker back then. A white guy named Joe Louis, who was also his student. Joe Louis was a champion, was a karate, I think middleweight champion, but he himself said Bruce was the baddest dude. He was a champion. He was just great. I had to learn from him because he was better than me. Chuck Norris today talks all that. Not today, but because he's not around in the media. But after Bruce Lee had passed away, he talked about Bruce Lee. He was good, but he was. I was a champion. He wanted to be. When I was in me, he would act like he could defeat Bruce Lee, or him and Bruce Lee was on the same level. But I have a magazine, which I need to find. But I have a magazine that I had from the 80s with him calling Bruce Lee master. Because Bruce Lee, I mean, it was from the magazine's from the 80s, but it was made, the articles from when Bruce was alive.
Right, in the 70s, yeah.
In the 70s. So when Bruce was alive, he was calling him the master, but when he was dead, he was saying that he was I was teaching him. So, I mean, it's all kind of records showing how great he was. And now, you know, like I said, you have this modern day era too. And I've trained MMA fighters, professional and amateur, and I respect the MMA game because what I did too was to advance myself when I started working in the House of Champions. I had to get beat up. I had to, you know, learn this new rhythm of an MMA fighter.
Yeah.
So once I got beat up a few times, you wasn't able to do it to me again. Because now I figured out your rhythm. I was learning their rhythm. I'm learning their habits, learning the holds. So once I learned, I respect the MMA game.
Mm-hmm.
But I know that it's not the street game.
Right.
Completely different fight. It's a different fight. And I can respect it. I love MMA. I love watching it. I love the discipline in it. I've like I said, I got beat up when I first was going in trying to figure out how to use the 52 against it. And after getting beat up, I learned the rhythm, and I also learned that it's not a street fight. MMA is just as different from a street fight as boxing is from MMA.
Mm.
But I respect all of them. I respect boxing, I respect MMA, and I respect the street fight. And I've done all three. So, and 52 is for survival. It's not for a game. You can't implement it into that. You can take techniques from 52 because I've trained fighters and they've implemented 52 in their MMA game. They were amateur and professional MMA fighters. So you can't implement it in it. But it's for survival. So it has weapons training in 52. There's knife training in 52.
Mm.
There's stuff that we call the Zulu short stick in 52, which is, you know, based off the Zulu spear. So we use the short stick. So we have the dance of death, which is a knife technique. Again, this MMA is a beautiful thing. I love it. It has helped me make 52 better.
Okay.
But it's just different. It's just different as it's not a street fight, and 52 is made for warfare.
You've worked with some pretty big names, haven't you?
I've worked with a few big names. I worked with Tyron Woodley, who's the welterweight champion, UFC welterweight champion. I've worked with Lorenz Tate, you know, who's a classic actor, and I've worked with Ludacris, who's actor and musician. I've worked with Stickman of Dead Prez. So yeah, I worked with Eddie Mendez, who's also an MMA guy. I've worked with Tony Ferguson at the House of Champions, who's also who's the light weight champion at UFC. So I've worked with a few people, yeah.
And Lorenz Tate is doing a project based on 52 blocks?
We did a project called Gun Hill. It was BET's first movie.
Oh, really? Gun Hill. I have to look at
yeah.
Okay. Gun Hill. How was it working on that project?
It was great. We filmed in New York. Lorenz, in the process of training 52, we became great friends.
Nice.
And he still practices 52 to this day.
Nice.
And we filmed that in 2011. So that was 7 years ago.
Wow. That
he started training, and he's been training since. And what he did was, Gun Hill was the first movie to ever feature 52 as the sole combat system of the hero. Ever. And it was great working on that. And I worked with Reggie Bythewood. Reggie Bythewood was the writer, director, producer of Gun Hill. He's from New York, and he's the one. He went to his son trained at the House of Champions.
Okay.
And he, Mark Parr, who's the owner and founder of House of Champions, was talking to him, and he was like, "Man, I'm about to make this movie, but I want to use this system, and nobody really knows about it." And he's like, "You probably don't even know about it. It's called 52 Blocks." And Mark was like, "No, my guy Diallo teaches it here." And he like, "Are you serious?" And he's like, I got to meet him. And then Mark ended up giving him my first book, Revelations of a Warrior. And after reading the book, he's like, I need you to just do a fight scene for me, see how it would look on tape, and then send it to me, and then I'll know if I can put it in the movie. And Mark and I did we ended up doing two. We did the first one at my house, and then he was like, "That was okay, but I need to see another one." And then we did another one at the House of Champions, and that one is the one that got us the gig to work with Reggie Bythewood, and then he said, "Okay, I'm gonna send this actor over on this date. I need you to train him." I'm like, "Okay." And then Lorenz Tate walked in, and that was that. And I was like, "Wait a minute!" I thought he was just gonna send like some no-name guy over. And
Lorenz Tate, wow.
It was Lorenz Tate, and he had eye contact when I first met him, and he was confident in his character, and I like that. And I talked to him, I interviewed him, because that was the thing about me. I don't just teach 52 to just any and everybody. I still, even though I brought it out to the light in the 21st century, I still don't teach it to everybody, because I want to make sure that you are a righteous representative of 52 Blocks.
Right.
And I told Mark that. And I was like, "Mark," he's like, "D, please don't." I was like, "Man, I want these people I want this dude to be a righteous representative," before I knew it was Lorenz. And then Lorenz came in, and and he was when I asked him the little questions, he had righteous answers, and I was like, "Okay, let's get to work."
Nice. And
the rest is history. And then we ended up doing a documentary on BET about 52 and the training. It was called Ammo 52, and that aired on BET too.
Okay.
And you can still go on BET's website and watch Ammo 52.
Oh, I'm gonna check it out today. So, if we at the beginning of this podcast, we talked about the youth and the rite of passage. Is there a way for youth? Because I'm in New York. I think you're in LA, in Cali.
Yeah.
Is there places between both states, between both states and in between? Are there outlets for youth to go and learn 52 blocks?
I mean, for me, that's what my mission is. I have a few students that I type, and I'm certifying these guys.
Mm-hmm.
And my mission is to certify these 7. I have 7 that I'm certifying, and I want those 7 to spread it throughout LA. One cat, Juan Hooks, who's my main guy, from St. Louis. He's originally from St. Louis, and eventually he said he's going to go back to St. Louis, and I want him to be in St. Louis spreading 52.
Nice.
I want my other guy is Darian Chapman, but Darian's a professional fighter. He fights MMA and he boxes. And I want Darian, when he retires, I want him to carry on the 52. So I'm teaching people and certifying them to get them out there. And, in New York, you have Light Burley, which is a colleague of mine. Light Burley is doing a heck of a job in New York and around. He goes around the country teaching. And Light Burley also works with a lot of young men and women in New York. He's doing a great job out there.
Okay. Man, thank you so much for the knowledge. Do you want to promote anything, your social media, your projects?
Yeah, you can catch me on Instagram. That's most of my social media. Instagram is at 52 Thoughts. At 52 Thoughts. We have right now I'm working with Maurice Crump, and he's the guy that he's the brother that taught Chadwick for the Panther, the Black Panther. Mm-hmm. He's the one who trained Chadwick, and he's the one when you see him doing the African shield and spear fighting. When Chadwick is fighting Michael B. Jordan.
Yeah.
He did that whole scene. Anytime, so Maurice and I came up with the two things actually, but the first thing that we came up with is a web series that's called Cash, and we're in the process of filming it right now. You can go to YouTube, put in Cash the series, and join the YouTube channel. We have content there, and we'll put a couple of previews out, and we plan on releasing the first episode of Cash, the series, in June. But this is something that I'm really excited about because Cash is based off some of this. It's exaggerated, but still based off of me, my training of Big Ant and the things that I did with Big Ant as a collector.
Oh, okay.
And that's why it's called Cash, because it's about retrieving that cash.
That cash, right? Okay.
Yeah, and that's the biggest project that I'm coming out right now. We have another one called Run Through Hell, which is a script right now, but it's in the hands of Reggie Bythewood. That's the cat who did Gun Hill. Reggie Bythewood also wrote Get on the Bus. He also wrote Notorious.
Oh, wow.
He also, his wife, Gina Bythewood, wrote Love and Basketball.
Oh, wow.
So, that's whose hands it's in right now, Run Through Hell. So, because Run Through Hell is a Montu Arts hood story. Something that's never been done, and I like to, and keep the Black culture in there. I actually gave it to one person, and I'm not going to say her name, Asian lady. But I don't know if she's Asian. She's more Caucasian than she is Asian. And I'm not saying physically, I'm saying mentally.
Okay. I get you. Maurice gave it to her actually, and I really don't think she read it, but she tried to tell me. I seen her and I talked to her. And I was like, Maurice been trying to get to you. Oh, okay, Maurice, blah blah blah. Yeah, that's my people. That's my boy, blah blah blah. And then she said, well, I think the characters are somewhat stereotypical, and I don't like stereotypical characters at all. And I said, and the story starts off at a Juneteenth celebration. And I'm like, what is this? I said, could you tell me what's stereotypical about a Juneteenth celebration? And she couldn't explain that. And then I said, could you tell me what stereotypical role is in there? And then she couldn't tell me, but she said, it's the language. And I said, how is the language stereotypical? Tell me what about the language is stereotypical. And she couldn't name anything. And I said, okay, yeah, I get it. You don't know Black culture or you didn't read it. Because it also has strong Black women in there that are not normal. They're not passive Black women. They're not Black women that are telling a man not to go out and fight. They're Black women that say, okay, go out there and whoop everybody and then come back home safe. That's the type of Black women that are in this script. Mm-hmm.
And there's nothing stereotypical about that, because usually Black women are, baby, we just need to march. We just need to let the Lord have, you know what I'm saying? That's the stereotypical Black woman in the movie. But she couldn't tell me anything about the script, which told me that she either just skimmed through it or she didn't read it at all. And she didn't know I was the co-writer of it either, even though it says that on the script. It says my name on it. But,
yeah, she didn't pay no attention to it.
Yeah, so, those things like that are inspirational for me. I love to hear that. I love to hear people, try to, reject, because I know that there's fuel in that, and I'm able to not react emotionally, but to focus and think logically and get things done. And like I said, it's in Reggie Bythewood's hands right now, one of the greatest Black directors, producers, and writers in Hollywood, period.
Nice.
So.
Nice. Anything else?
We're good. No, we haven't. Just right now, to me, it's another project that I might be coming out with Ludacris, but I can't say yet.
Okay.
And he will be doing the 52 in it. So I have to be quiet on that one, but it's a possible project that's coming out that he will be doing the 52 in it.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll look out for that. So I want to
Cash the Series is the main thing. Sorry about that.
No.
Cash the Series. Go to YouTube, type in Cash the Series, and join the YouTube channel.
Okay. And I'll be subscribing to them right after we're done here. To that YouTube channel, I'll be subscribing right after we're done. I want to thank you again so much for appearing on the podcast. There's an idea I want to run past you about something, so just hold on the line while I end off the show here. There's something real quick. Something real quick I want to ask you. Okay?
No problem.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Bitter Medicine Podcast with your host, Koku. If you like what you just heard, we hope you pass along our web address, bittermedicineblogs.com, to your friends and colleagues, and share our show to all your social media. Be sure to check out our archive section on our website for previous podcasts. This has been a KWAZ radio production. Join us next time for another session of the Bitter Medicine Podcast. Follow us on Facebook at Bitter Medicine Show, Twitter, Bitter Meds, Tumblr, Bitter Meds, Instagram, Bitter Medicine.